This is the Black TV Show podcast hosted by Miriam Temeskin. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 84, The Cosby Show Season 4, episode and they were driving, and the police sirens went off, and so that scared Tom, and he accidentally crossed the red lights. He kind of wanted to outchase the police, and Claire is just in shock to be like, what? And so then Tom tried to and so he they chased us only for 2 blocks, and then Tom jumped the curve and hit a stop sign. And so, Claire's just frustrated, and she says, go to your room, me and your dad will talk about it. And they go to the kitchen, and before Cliff goes in the kitchen, Theo was like, am I in really serious trouble? And Cliff was like, you can take our car right now and drive backwards to Coney Island, and you'd still be in the same trouble that you are currently. And so, I don't know what the point of that is to say. Basically, I guess he's saying, you're in big trouble. Good luck with the punishment that you're about to get. And so Theo leaves, and Cliff goes into the kitchen, and they're angry. They're like, how does our son be like this? And apparently the police really judged Theo because, Cliff is a doctor and he's in a middle class household, and, people like him, they don't really take care of their kids. They're so focused, career driven. And so this is the reason why this is normal for a family like this. And Cliff just didn't like how he was being judged like that. I guess there's a better way to be judged like that than to be judged for your color, I guess, but not really. Class and color should never be the reason why you parent a certain child a certain way. And Claire starts talking about how Theo, the issues with Theo, basically, to get him to do something, you have to tell him 10 times in order for him to do it, and also then look at him while he does that activity or whatever whatever task she gives him. And Cliff says Theo took his last blade for shaving, and then Claire starts talking about, Theo took her car yesterday, and he left the tank empty, and she even gave him the gas money. So just to she gave the money to him to go put gas in the car. He didn't need to pay for it, but he still left the car empty. And then Claire, when she was going to work, she found out that there was no gas in the car, and so she was upset with that. And basically you can tell because Cliff is talking about shaving and the last blade, and Claire is talking about the car and the gas, and you could tell that they're not listening to each other. And so all of a sudden they're like, did you hear what I said? Did you listen to what I said? And they were like, what are you talking about? You got stranded in the dark road. That's what Claire was saying. Imagine if I was stranded. And Cliff was like, what are you talking about? And Cliff was like, I nicked my face. And Claire was like, yeah, you nick your face if you shave or not. You nick. It was just crazy with the way they're communicating. Clearly, they're not listening to each other. And so they both go in the living room, and they're a little frustrated because it's like, you're not listening to me, basically. And, Cliff says that, are you upset and all? And, Claire is upset, and then they start arguing about being upset. I have the right to be upset. You don't need to tell me when to be upset. It goes on and on, basically. And Theo comes down and asks, oh, am I going to get my punishment? And they were like, we're not sure we're going to have it for you today. And he was like, I kind of wanted to get it tonight because after my grounding on Friday, I want to go to Lana's party. And Claire is just like, what? Why would you go after you just came from the police station? No, And they said that they'll talk to him tomorrow, and that they're not giving the punishment today. And so Claire mentions Sandra and Denise never act like this at Theo's age, and Cliff says that Theo's a boy and they just do this. Not a good thing to say. No. Cliff, you should have took that back. Take that back. Do not say that. We are equal people, okay? I understand that boys do not mature as fast as girls, but you can't tolerate it. And even Claire says, so that makes it an excuse for him to act like this and his behavior. No, it's not an excuse. I agree with Claire. That's not an excuse to let him slide with the behavior that he's behaving. And so Claire is she's frustrated, basically, and she goes to the bedroom, and she's going into the bed. It's it's nighttime at this point, or it's been nighttime this whole time that we've been watching the show. And so Claire says they told each other that they can't sleep angry, because at this point Cliff and Claire are angry because they're not listening to each other. I think that's basically what we're getting. And so Claire basically asks Cliff to apologize. He's like, I'm not apologizing. You need to apologize. And Claire was like, I'm not apologizing. And she was like, you know what? So I have one last thing to say. We're going to sleep angry. And Cliff was like, fine with me. And so he goes into the bed, and all of a sudden Claire takes the covers away from Cliff. And Cliff says, I slept like this all the time in the Navy, and also I slept closer with the enemy, closer than what we are right now, basically. I don't know what the point of him saying that, but we end Act 1 there, and we go into Act 2. Vanessa's reading the newspaper to see if Theo's name is in it, but she can't find it. She's checking, Don Joe, is it Jane Doe? And then Rudy is like, oh, check Theo Doe. And I'm like, what? I'm just like, okay, do you, Rudy and Vanessa. And so Theo comes downstairs, and Vanessa asks, like, what happened? Like, what name did you use? So that I guess she could find it in the newspaper. And he said nothing. They didn't book me. I just waited at the police station for Dad, and I haven't gotten my punishment yet because they were arguing last night. And Vanessa and Rudy, they were like, oh, whoa. And so Theo leaves, and they were like, should we wait for our parents to come down so we know what they're arguing about, or go to school? And Rudy was like, let's wait. So they decide to wait. Cliff comes down, and Vanessa points out that he looks tired, and Cliff says, yeah, I'm a little tired. And so they start saying things like what caused him to be tired, like, is it the babies? Is it reading late? And then all of a sudden Rudy was like, oh, is it because you guys were arguing? And Cliff was like, yeah. And Vanessa was like, what? Rudy, don't say that. And Cliff says, yeah, we were arguing, but that's what people in love do. And they do that from time to time, but it will end soon. He's very optimistic at this point. And so Vanessa points out that he should buy flowers for Claire. And then Rudy points out that maybe Cliff should buy a dog for Claire. And Cliff was like, yeah, right. That's not going to make Claire happy. We already know that. So Cliff tells them that, don't you guys need to catch a school bus? And they're like, yeah. And so they go. And so Cliff goes into the living room, and Claire is just there working randomly. It's very strange. She's all dressed up for work, but she's just sitting there. And Claire has an exercise for them to do, which is to write out a list of things that they about each other that made them upset of one another. And then they will exchange lists and promise to never do that again. So they both sit down on the couch, and they both start writing. And Cliff finished writing first. But Claire is still writing. She still has things that she's upset about from him. And Cliff was like, oh, I'm done writing. And she was like, I know. I still have a few things to write. And Cliff all of a sudden takes the notepad back and starts writing more. And Claire starts being like, I thought you were done, basically. And he's like, no, I have a few more things to add. And so she takes the notepad back to her, and she's reading it, and it's like incomplete sentences. And he's like, yeah, you're supposed to go on the filling the blanks. Huh? What, Cliff? You're really acting like a child right now. It's just, I don't have words to say, I guess. And so, Claire was like, you know what? We are still arguing, and I'm going to work. Good day. And Cliff was like, it's not good day, it's good morning. Like, what difference does that make? So you're going to have a good day. You're not going to see the person until the evening. So Claire is right. I'm sorry, I'm a Claire stan. We support Claire Huxtable. She is the queen, okay? So when people go after her, we protect her, okay? My listeners that you're listening right now, you better protect the queen, Claire Huxtable. What difference is it? A good day, good morning? Doesn't make a difference. I can't deal with this child right now with Cliff. So anyways, we go to Cliff's office with a patient. And the patient is not enjoying the visit because he's not funny today. Usually he's funny, but he's all business today. And so the patient guessed like what happened, all like a few things, and all of a sudden she guessed, "Oh, do you have a fight with your wife?" And right away she's like, "Oh, that is it." And she points out, "It's your fault because you are a man." And and he's like, "What?" But I agree with the patient, even though we've just met her on this episode. I agree with her. It is Cliff's fault, because I said we protect Queen Claire Huxtable. Okay. So we cut to Claire's office, which we're seeing for the first time. I feel like we're going to be in this office a few times in a few different episodes, but in this case, this is the first time we're seeing it. And she's with I was going to say client, but I don't think it's like a lawyer that she's going against for a case. And all of a sudden she gets a phone call, and it's Cliff, and he's calling to apologize, but she's trying to be as professional. And like, I was watching it and I'm like, this guy is just like, what is going on with this phone call? Because, at first, maybe the first 15 seconds you're like, okay, whatever. And then once you get to 30 to a minute, you're like, who is she talking to? And I just love his face reaction, this man that's in her office. And as I said, she's trying to be professional. And at one point, he asked Claire to say, "I love you." And she's like, "I cannot do that. I'm with someone." And so he's like, "Say it in Spanish." And so she starts speaking in Spanish.
Hay otro abogado aquí y ahora estamos hablando a cosas muy importantes, ¿ok?
I like it, but I don't think you said I love you.
Correctamente, señor doctor.
I'll say that I don't understand Spanish myself, but when Cliff says, "I don't think you said I love you," and so I actually went on Google Translate to hear what "I love you" is in Spanish, and he's actually correct. She did not say it. I'm not sure why, because maybe, do we know if that man would know Spanish? We don't know, because especially this, this show is in New York, or like it's based in New York City, and also it was filmed in New York, but there's a lot of Spanish speaking fluent people in New York, so sometimes people will know Spanish, and I feel like I can't say this is fact, but I feel like Spanish is usually a required course in high school or in junior high that you take. So yeah, I would assume that you would know "I love you." It's a common phrase. You usually would know certain common phrase. So maybe a lot of people know. So maybe she just was like, "I don't want to say that in front of this guy." And so Cliff makes her to desk dance. How does he even know that she's dancing? Like, they're not physically together, and they're not on FaceTime or Zoom. So how do you know? But whatever. And she's doing it, and like she's starting to smile, and the guy's just like, what is she doing? Like, who's she talking to? Although we find out that we know he knows who she's talking to, and so she was like, "Hey, I have to go. I'm working right now." And he's like, "Okay," and so he leaves. And Claire tells the man that the call was with the most important client that she has. And the guy says, "Yes, I always take calls from my wife." And Claire was like, "Ooh, I'm embarrassed." So he knew who was on the phone. And we are in the living room, and Cliff has the music still on. I was trying to figure out what the song was. I've heard this song before, and I just don't know who plays it, because I would love to have played this for the end of the episode, but I couldn't figure it out, so I apologize. I have a feeling you guys probably already know what it is. I'm stumped with what the song was. So Claire comes home, and she's very dramatic with her walking in, putting her coat down, and then, they start kind of kissing each other, and Theo comes home, and they said to Theo, "This time we'll give you your punishment. We'll meet you upstairs in your room." And he goes, and Cliff and Claire are kissing, and they start talking about the situation, and says, "Let's allow him to go to Lana's party." And then I guess punish him basically after that. And Cliff and Claire's, Cliff was like, "There's last thing we have to do," which is basically saying "I'm sorry," but they're gonna say it at the same time. So they're like, 1, 2, 3, and Claire is the only one that says, I'm sorry, and Cliff says, I'm going to the kitchen, and we end the episode right there. So of course, Sabrina and Jeffrey they do not appear in this episode. We get 2 guest stars, and I apologize for this first name that I cannot pronounce, which is Frida Fo-Sheen. I think I probably said that wrong, but I apologize. That was the Cliff's patient, the one that was saying, you don't make me laugh, and it's the man's fault in the fight. She's done a whole lot of acting. She's been in How to Get Away with Murder and 911 and 102 other credits. Then we have Ron Foster, who plays Mr. Hansen, who is the man that was in Claire's office, staring at her. His face reactions were really well done. I feel like to get that role, you were supposed to have good face reaction to like, who is she on the phone with? You know, what is going on with the conversation? So this guy was really good at this role. And he will be back for another episode of The Cosby Show with this as the same character, so that's okay. He's has 86 credits, but sadly he died February 2015 at the age of 85. And the lesson from this episode is based on that patient that said, if you're in a fight with your spouse, it's the man's fault. That's plain and simple. Period. Okay? And the question I have for you guys is, tell me the fights that you've had with a spouse, a friend, or a family member that you now realize it was a stupid to fight about. Let me know at Black TV Shows Pod, at Instagram and Twitter, using the hashtag That's Not What I Said. I would love to hear your responses. The next episode is episode 85. A Different World, Season 1, Episode 6, Rudy and the Snow Queen. So it's basically a Cosby Show episode, it feels like, based on that name. I was looking, I'm like, oh wait, is this A Different World or the Cosby Show? But I remember the first season was very interconnected. So Keisha Knight Pulliam will be on A Different World. So that'll be cool to get to watch and talk about. And I will see you all on the next one.